Welcome, I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com, a place where we apply the Bible to real life. This is where we try to love God, love people, and do it all for His glory. So today we're talking specifically to women and about dating. What does the Bible say about dating, and what are some practical tips? So to start off, it's important to know that the Bible doesn't actually say anything specifically about dating, because dating as you and I are talking about it is really a foreign concept in biblical times. But with that said, what we can do is we can take biblical principles and biblical wisdom and apply it to the specific topic of dating. So that's what I hope to do in this video, and I'm going to be talking about 6 tips that might help you if you're a Christian woman in the dating scene. Obviously, I am not a Christian woman, but what I'm trying to do in this video is try to offer like a big brother's perspective. This is what I would tell my little sister if I had one. There's so much more I could say, but we're going to have to limit it to this, and here we go. Number 1, don't date somebody you know you're not going to marry. So like we already talked about, dating isn't mentioned in the scriptures. But what is mentioned is that Christians are not called to marry non-Christians. I've recently just did a video on that if you want to get into that topic, but sufficient to say the Bible is really clear for Christians not to marry them. So I believe the most biblically wise approach to dating is to date with a purpose. Not just to have a good time, not just to, have fun, but ultimately to see if this guy is the person that God has for you to marry. So if that's your approach to dating, it makes no sense to date somebody you already know you're not going to marry. I know it's easy to date somebody when they like you or you're attracted to them or you have a great time, but you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache and trouble if you cut things off before they get too serious. Why would you want to get your heart connected to somebody when you know that you're going to have to sever those ties that are being built? So I would say, number 1, don't date anybody you know you're not going to marry. The second thing I would say is never settle, but make sure your standards are realistic. I think one of the most common pieces of advice you've probably heard is never settle. And I absolutely agree with that. But I also see a problem with the idea of never settling when a girl's standards are way too high. You get stuck in the dating cycle when you need someone to check every single box that you have on your list. The longer your list is, the harder it's going to be to find a guy like that. I think in every human heart there's a longing to be paired with somebody perfect. Ultimately, because we have a longing to be connected with Jesus Christ, who's really the only perfect person. That need to have someone who meets all your desires is ultimately going to be fulfilled in Jesus Christ. The sooner you can, let go of some of the more minor things on your list, the more likely you're going to see great guys all around you. I also think it's really important to give a guy a chance, because I've talked to a lot of women, and I know some friends of ours that, this guy likes this girl, but she's not attracted to him at first. And then all of a sudden, he does something that kind of switches it in her mind because she got to know him a little bit. And again, I'm not a woman, but from what I hear, women are less visually wired than guys. Of course, you need to be physically attracted to the guy you're going to marry, but when you get to know a guy and you get to see his personality and he starts pursuing you and you really start connecting, odds are the attraction level is going to rise in you. If you ask any mature, married Christian woman who's still attracted to her husband, I highly doubt she's going to say, I'm still attracted to him because he's just such a hunk. He's so slick. He's so smooth. That's not what she's going to say. She's going to say, I'm still attracted to my husband after 10, 15, 20 years of marriage because he's humble, because he's mature, because he's a great provider, because he leads our family well, because he loves God, he's a leader in the church. Those bigger qualities are what are going to matter over a long period of time. You're going to stay more attracted to that person if your attraction is, based in more deeper things and less superficial things like looks and what kind of car he drives. So of course, never settle, but also give a guy a chance. Number 3, be careful of the guy who seems too perfect. Sometimes when you're looking for the perfect guy, you actually end up finding him, but he's not really perfect. He's pretending, he's posing. There's a lot of guys out there who want girls to think that they're perfect, that they never show them any of their flaws. The problem with this is, obviously nobody's perfect. Nobody's that slick, that smooth. If he never seems like he has any issues, there's probably something he's hiding. So I would say that when a guy likes you because you make him feel like a god, he's gonna not like you when you start making him feel like a human. Eventually there comes a time in every relationship where there's a conflict. And he's going to do something wrong, you're going to do something wrong. If you can admit your part, the guy who needs to be the perfect guy in your eyes is really going to struggle to own up to his issues. He's going to constantly blame you. He's going to constantly want to be elevated. He's going to play the victim card all the time. So again, just be careful around those guys who seem too perfect. Number 4, listen to your friends and family. So I'm not saying you have to blindly follow the advice of other people. It's definitely your life and you need to live it. But if there's like multiple people in your life saying the same thing and they have a track record of caring for you and loving you, it's really smart to listen to what they're saying. Of course, if you have one friend who's like an outlier and they really don't like your new boyfriend, then yeah, it's probably, a good idea just to overlook that one. But if you see trends and you're hearing things over and over from people who care about you, definitely listen to that. You really don't want to be that girl who's ignoring everyone who loves her because she has tunnel vision on the guy who kind of likes her. That guy's going to leave, he's going to, break your heart, and your friends and family are going to be there to pick up the pieces. So again, listen to your friends and family. They care about you, they love you, they really just want the best for you. The 5th thing I would say is don't just think about now, think about the future. This one really applies to you if you're on the younger side, because at this point in life, if you're like in your teens or early 20s, guys have a lot of developing to do. But you're going to be able to kind of see where they're headed by their choices now. Of course, we all can repent and we don't have to repeat the sins of our past. But on a more practical level, our past is sometimes the best indicator of the future. So if this guy's never had a job, he's really bad in school, he likes to play video games all day and eats Taco Bell every night, there's no reason to assume that he's going to all of a sudden turn into this great leader, this great provider, this guy who's going to, make dinner for you and the kids once you, get to that point in life. So you really, I know it's hard to do, but if you can, you got to kind of project out and see, where's this guy headed? Dating, someone can be a great, boyfriend. It can be great to date somebody. But that doesn't ultimately mean they're going to be a great husband. So you have to look at those qualities that you want in a guy down the line to make sure you're not wasting your time right now. My wife and I got married when I was 22, and now I'm 31. I'm a way better provider than I was then. I'm a better leader. I can, I think I'm a little more humble. I can admit my wrongs. There's a lot of areas that I've improved in over that time. So I didn't have then what I have now. But I really highly doubt my wife would have given me a chance if she didn't see the possibility of the kind of guy I was going to develop into. So what I'm saying is, you're not going to find a perfect guy in his early 20s or teens, but you can probably look at who he is now and see the potential for who he might be later. The last thing I would say is look for character and not just talent. So I've talked to, an odd number of girls who feel like the guy leading worship who's not married somehow is making eye contact with them like every Sunday. And, I'm not trying to make fun of that, but it's not really happening because multiple girls are thinking the same thing. And I think that happens because it's really easy to like a guy who's extremely expressive in his Christianity. Guys aren't naturally expressive. So when you see the worship leader or the pastor or the artistic Christian, it's really easy to like them because their Christianity is on such display. But here's the thing. I've counseled some younger women who have actually been dating worship leaders, and I've literally heard of, these guys are sleeping around, they're living with their girlfriend, and, they're like the head full-time worship leader. So my point in saying that is that you don't have to be a really great Christian to be a good singer, to, have some pizzazz on stage, or to paint a great picture, or to do something artistic. That's really not a sign of spiritual maturity. That's more of a sign of talent. Now, I'm certainly not bashing worship leaders. I don't think it's the norm for them to be hypocritical, terrible people. What I'm just trying to say is that those types of guys are really limited. They're not there that often. And so if you only want that guy who's visibly showing his Christianity in very expressive, artistic ways, you're going to be really hindering your chances of finding somebody. While there's not a ton of guys who can sing great or do artistic things, I think there are good Christian men out there who do the right thing when no one's watching, who are faithful, who go to work every day, who will pursue you and love you. But you have to give them a chance because they're not going to have that artistic, expressive nature that sometimes comes a little bit more natural for the females. Well, obviously we're just scratching the surface. Dating is such a huge topic, so it's something I write a lot about on my website. I'll leave a few links in the description of this video if you want to dive into more content like this. But as always, I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com, and until next time, God bless.